On that night, an unsettling air enveloped everything. The house lay in an unsettling hush, a silence so profound it felt as though it were pressing down upon your very chest. As I tidied the kitchen after dinner, an unsettling sensation crept over me. Someone was observing my every move. My son lingered in the doorway, his petite silhouette faintly illuminated by the soft glow of the hallway, his gaze fixed on mine with an intensity that was strikingly unfamiliar. With deliberate steps, he traversed the room and settled next to me, his proximity unsettlingly intimate. In a voice so gentle it seemed to float on the air, he uttered 3 words that fractured the tranquility and unveiled a threshold I was unprepared to confront. The evening had progressed in a manner reminiscent of countless others. Jason returned home from school, his backpack draped haphazardly over one shoulder, his shoes strewn across the floor in their typical disarray. He had grown distant in recent days, enveloped in a quiet introspection, yet I paid it little mind. Ultimately, he was maturing. Young men often experience various phases, don't they? It was ordinary. That was the narrative I spun for myself. Yet there was an unmistakable quality in the atmosphere that evening that seemed distinct. As I completed the dinner dishes in the kitchen, I found myself immersed in the soothing rhythm of scrubbing and rinsing. The refrigerator hummed softly its sound, a solitary companion, while the clinking plates in the sink served as a persistent reminder that time was slipping through the cracks. Jason scarcely uttered a word following dinner, slipping away to his room the moment he finished his meal. I felt the urge to reach out to inquire about his day, yet the fatigue from the week began to settle heavily upon me. My thoughts meandered, skirting the edges of the ordinary duties awaiting completion, while the deeper musings hovered just out of reach, ever present beneath the surface. Yet, amidst it all, there lingered a profound silence. It wasn't the serene kind that accompanied the day's conclusion when the home embraced a tranquil ease. No, this silence was oppressive, weighing heavily on my shoulders, as if I stood on the brink of an unnamed revelation. A sense of unease washed over me, as if a tempest was gathering just out of sight, lurking beyond the horizon. I dried my hands on a dish towel and stepped into the living room, anticipating the sight of Jason, either engrossed in his video games or lost in the pages of a book. Yet the room remained shrouded in darkness, save for the light that fell directly upon me. In that fleeting instant, it felt as though time had come to a standstill. My heart raced, a quiet tension swelling within my chest. Jason had always been the quieter of my 2 children, yet this moment felt distinctly unique. A palpable tension hung in the air, evident in the way his eyes lingered, concealing a depth of meaning that stirred something within me. It was as if I were teetering on the precipice of a great unknown, caught between the allure of the plunge and the instinct to retreat. "Is that you, Jason?" My voice resonated oddly, as if it belonged to someone else entirely. He paused before answering. Yet I noticed him taking a measured step in my direction, his bare feet gliding silently over the hardwood floor. The familiar air of confidence that once surrounded him had vanished. The Jason standing before me now was a stranger unrecognizable in his essence. He existed distinct. As he settled beside me on the couch, the atmosphere felt denser, the distance between us shrinking, constricting. He was nearer than I had felt in ages, yet the warmth I anticipated was absent. It lacked the warmth of a mother and son, the effortless intimacy of the connection we once had. It was an experience. Otherwise, a sense of unease lingers. I pivoted to confront him, my heart pounding with increasing intensity, a peculiar blend of apprehension and intrigue churning within me. "What's happening, Jason?" I inquired, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor, though my voice betrayed me with a slight crack. He hesitated, and the silence lingered between us, taut and unyielding. The intensity of his gaze pressed upon me as if he were weighing a decision of great significance. At last, after what seemed an endless stretch of silence, he finally uttered a word. His voice was soft, nearly imperceptible, and it sent a shiver coursing down my spine. "Mom," he began, and I could see the burden of his words pressing down on him, the struggle evident as he wrestled with something that had been simmering within him for far too long. "What is it, my dear?" I murmured, a tremor of apprehension lacing my voice as I awaited the response. He gazed at his hands, his fingers nervously toying with the hem of his shirt. It felt as though he was summoning the courage to articulate the thoughts that had been gnawing at him from within. The silence lingered, and in that instant I understood that whatever words were poised to escape his lips, they would not be something I was prepared to hear. "Mother, I have something important to share with you." At last, he caught my gaze, and the intensity in his eyes sent a shiver coursing through me. The experience transcended the mere uncertainty of a teenager grappling with the complexities of communication. No, this was something more profound. His eyes were filled with trepidation, a palpable dread directed at me, an apprehension of the truth, and a looming anxiety over the secret he was on the verge of revealing. And that was the moment it struck me. I was utterly unprepared for this. My breath hitched in my throat, and in that moment, I found myself at the brink of a chasm, gazing into the depths of an unfathomable void. The son I believed I understood completely had transformed into someone unrecognizable, a stranger, in the guise of the boy I once nurtured. Whatever words were on the verge of escaping his lips, they held the potential to shatter the very foundation of all we had ever known. It possessed the ability to transform us both. In the quietude of that instant, he softly uttered those three words. "Mother, I apologize." The earth seemed to crumble beneath my feet. My thoughts spun wildly, grappling with the unexpected surge of feelings. "I apologize. What is the purpose? I apologize for my absence. I apologize for excluding myself from your world." His words were shrouded in ambiguity, leaving me in a haze of confusion that only heightened the intensity of the moment, making it all the more overwhelming. I felt an urge to confront him, to seek clarity, yet his demeanor suggested that what he had uttered was merely a glimpse beneath the surface. My heart raced, and my thoughts scattered like leaves in a tempest. The ensuing silence enveloped the room, heavy and oppressive. The weight of those three words bore down on me, dismantling the fragile sense of safety I had constructed for myself and our family. Jason's apology resonated beyond a mere confession. It seemed to herald the onset of something far more significant, something I was unprepared to confront. "What are you trying to say, Jason?" My voice quivered, yet I found myself unable to halt its escape. The fear that had taken root in my chest now surged forth, intertwining with confusion and a profound, gnawing dread. With a subtle quiver in his voice, he began to speak once more, his words tumbling out in a hurried stream, as if they were desperate to escape. "It was never my intention, yet the truth stands, and there's no way to retract it. He paused, diverting his gaze, his eyes wandering through the room in search of something elusive, something that remained just out of reach. The air hung heavy, suffocating in its density. The walls seemed to constrict around us, the distance that once separated us, diminishing with each fleeting moment. And then, akin to the stillness that precedes a tempest, the silence enveloped the scene more profound than ever. What Jason shared with me, whatever truth lingered just below the surface, was merely the prologue. This caught me off guard. The truth was a weight I wasn't prepared to bear. Yet above all, I found myself unprepared to alter my perception of my son. And yet, I sensed deep within that this moment, this night, would signify the conclusion of all I believed I knew. My heart raced in my chest as I remained motionless on the couch, gazing at my son. His words, those 3 simple words, lingered in the air, heavy with the gravity of a meaning I had yet to grasp. I had always taken great pride in my role as a mother, convinced that I understood my children better than anyone else. Yet now, I found myself confronted with the stark realization of how mistaken I had truly been. I realized I didn't know him as intimately as I had believed. Jason. My voice barely escaped as a whisper. The term lingered awkwardly on my lips, akin to a desperate call for an elusive understanding. He averted his eyes, staring intently at the ground, his fingers fidgeting restlessly in his lap. It was evident that he was grappling with an internal struggle, searching for the precise words. Yet it was unmistakable that whatever he was poised to utter next would unravel the very essence of our reality. I can't quite find the words, he whispered, his voice quaking. It was never my intention for things to unfold this way, yet here we are. And I cannot feign that it did not occur. My thoughts were in a whirlwind. A myriad of scenarios raced through my mind, each more harrowing than the one before. What had he accomplished? What was he revealing? I longed to connect with him, to embrace him, to reassure him that all would be well. Yet my hand lingered motionless at my side. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts, leaving me adrift in a sea of doubt. Jason, I implore you, engage with me. My words now carried a sense of urgency, a silent plea. I required him to reveal his thoughts, to articulate his reasoning. The stillness that enveloped us was suffocating, resembling an abyss that words alone could never bridge. He inhaled deeply, his hands trembling. It was after the camping trip last month that he began, his voice barely rising above a whisper. There are details I chose not to share with you. I never intended to cause you pain, yet here we are. A knot formed in my stomach, a journey into the great outdoors. He had ventured out with his friends and their families, among them his best friend's older sister, Emily. At that moment, it hadn't crossed my mind significantly. I had placed my trust in him, convinced that he was merely another teenager navigating the complexities of life, crafting memories along the way. Yet with every utterance that escaped his lips, the fragments of the puzzle started to align in a manner I had not anticipated. I don't know how to say this, Mom. He began, his voice trembling as he struggled to find the right words. But Emily, she kissed me. The admission hung in the air, heavy with unspoken emotions. It was far more than a fleeting kiss. It truly felt tangible. I let it unfold without intervention. My breath hitched in my throat. Emily, the elder sister of his closest companion. It eluded my understanding. For years, I had known Emily. She had always been kind and respectful, embodying the qualities of a daughter I never had. Yet this was an unforeseen occurrence. Thoughts surged through my mind as I tried to grasp the weight of his words. My son, Jason, had pressed his lips to hers. Moreover, he failed to intervene. So you were merely conducting an experiment, weren't you? I inquired, striving to maintain a calm demeanor, attempting to reassure myself that this was merely a fleeting moment, something he would eventually move past. I had to hold on to that belief, or else I risked losing my sanity. Jason shook his head, guilt swirling in his eyes. It was more than that, Mother. It had an unmistakable quality about it. Uncertainty lingered in my mind, yet the thought refused to fade away concerning her, and that filled me with fear. I sought to avoid that feeling altogether. I found myself at a loss for words. This new version of Jason eluded my understanding. The boy I believed I understood so intimately had just unveiled a facet of himself that seemed utterly foreign. And now, I found myself tasked with gathering the remnants of a reality that seemed to have splintered akin to a mirror, shattered into countless shards. He pressed on his voice, dropping to a near whisper, barely audible. It has occupied my thoughts ever since. I hesitated to share this with you, Mom. My intention was never to let you down, yet I found myself unable to contain it any longer. The heaviness of his words enveloped me, pressing down like a leaden shroud. His confession held a certain rawness that was impossible to ignore, a whisper that resonated with the fear and shame he bore within. Despite the urge to unleash my fury, to raise my voice and seek the truth, I understood that such actions were beyond my reach. He was my son, and in this moment, I faced the profound choice of defining my role in his life, what sort of mother I might become. Jason. At last, I succeeded, my voice quivering with emotion. Words escaped me. This is an overwhelming amount to absorb. I know, he murmured, his eyes brimming with tears now. I never intended to cause you pain, Mom. My intention was never to cause pain to anyone. However, She lingered in my thoughts, an enigma I couldn't quite decipher. Fear gripped me. His vulnerability pierced me deeply. His pain washed over me, a palpable confusion that lingered in the air. He wasn't merely recounting a kiss. He was unveiling a fragment of his own soul that remained shrouded in mystery to him. A fragment of his being remained in the throes of self-discovery, grappling with desires and learning to traverse the intricate labyrinth of feelings that accompanied the journey of maturation. I inhaled deeply, seeking to anchor myself amidst the tumult of my feelings. Jason, this is an abundance. However, it is essential for you to grasp this point. Your actions do not determine your identity. You are not without merit. Yet this holds significant importance. Connections and limits, they hold significance. It is essential to cultivate an understanding of how to honor your own emotions as well as those of others. He nodded, tears cascading down his cheeks. I understand, Mother. It was never my intention to cause anyone pain. I merely was at a loss for what to do. I drew him close, enveloping him in a firm embrace as the gravity of his revelations settled around us. He remained my son, the very child I had cradled in my arms during his infancy, the same boy I had observed as he blossomed into a person I scarcely recognized. Yet in that instant, as I embraced him tightly, I realized that this marked a pivotal moment for us both. You're going to make mistakes, Jason, I whispered, my voice trembling. However, that does not imply that I will abandon my efforts for you. Together, we shall unravel this mystery. You are not alone. He leaned into me, his body quaking softly within my embrace. I deeply apologize, Mother. I am uncertain about how to resolve this issue. I pressed my lips to the crown of his head, a weight settling in my chest, as I grappled with the realization that our bond had transformed in ways I had not anticipated. Yet as I cradled him in my arms, a singular truth resonated within me. We would confront this challenge side by side. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, Yet we were determined to navigate our way through it. Perhaps in this very instant lay the defining moment that would sculpt the man he was destined to be. "There's no need to concern yourself with repairs at this moment, Jason," I murmured gently. "We shall proceed gradually, embracing each step along the way. Simply vow to me that your honesty will remain unwavering regardless of the challenges it may bring." "I assure you, Mother." His voice trembled with deep feeling, and for an instant I questioned whether he fully grasped the weight of his promise. Yet I was aware that we had entered a new chapter, one where truth and empathy would serve as the bedrock for all that lay ahead. As we lingered in that moment, the gravity of his revelation hung palpably between us, and I came to a significant realization. Regardless of the challenges posed by the truth, and despite the anguish that lay ahead, this was my son. As his mother, it was my duty to stand by him, to offer guidance, and to envelop him in love throughout every moment. Though the road ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, I felt a deep conviction that we would confront it side by side, fortified by our shared resolve. The room was stifling, as if the very air had thickened with all that remained unspoken. Jason sat beside me, yet it seemed as if an entire ocean lay between us at that moment. His confession, those 3 simple words, resonated in my thoughts, cycling through my mind endlessly. Our lips met in a gentle embrace. A fragment of my being yearned to unleash a cry, to erupt in fury, to question the very fabric of this reality. How had it come to be, and why had it unfolded in this manner? Yet I understood beneath the surface that the fury would serve no purpose. The confusion, the hurt, the betrayal, all intertwined in my chest, forming a knot I could not unravel. I gazed at him, attempting to unravel the meaning of what I had just discovered. My son, my dear, pure-hearted son, had bestowed a kiss upon someone, and not just any someone. Emily. I had known Emily since her childhood, had witnessed her journey into adulthood. She held a place in my heart, akin to family. And now, in an instant, everything had become marred. It was more than merely a kiss. It marked the onset of a perplexing journey, one that eluded my understanding. "What is the reason behind this?" I inquired, the word escaping my lips before I could rein it in. "Why didn't you share this with me earlier? What has held us back until this moment?" Jason's gaze flitted about the room, deliberately steering clear of my own. He shook his fingers, gripped with such intensity that his knuckles turned pale. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mom," he muttered, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "My intention was never to let you down." Initially, I was oblivious to its meaning, yet there was an undeniable sense that concealing it was simply not right. The fragility in his voice struck me with an intensity I hadn't anticipated. It was more than mere guilt that echoed in my ears. It was a source of deep regret, and that filled me with a deeper fear than anything else. I recognized that expression, a reflection of my own visage during those times when I faced the challenging fragments of my being that were hard to embrace. I reclined on the couch, thoughts swirling in a tempest within my mind. What comes next? The question echoed in my mind, relentless and unyielding. He was my son, my child, and yet in this moment, he felt like a stranger to me. I was unaware of the transformation he had undergone. The boy I believed I knew, the one who sought my counsel, who chuckled at my cheesy jokes, appeared to have vanished, supplanted by a stranger I could no longer identify. A fragment of my being yearned for the uncomplicated days of yore when distinctions were sharp, and I could cling to the comforting delusion that all was well. Yet everything seemed amiss now. Everything had irrevocably changed. I extended my hand, lingering just above his, caught in a moment of uncertainty. I longed to offer him solace, to assure him that all would be well. Yet deep down, I understood that it was a falsehood. It simply wouldn't be acceptable. Not at this moment. Countless words lingered in the air, and an abundance of scars awaited their remedy. Do you feel remorse for it? The inquiry emerged with an almost instinctual quality. Uncertainty lingered in my mind regarding the words I wished him to utter. A fragment of my being yearned for him to confess that it had been a misstep, that it was nothing beyond a fleeting lapse in judgment. Yet beneath the surface, I understood it was far from straightforward. Connections, sentiments, and emotions, they didn't function in that manner. Perhaps this was not a matter of regret. Perhaps this journey was about his quest to uncover his true self. Jason lingered in silence, his gaze drifting far away. I don't know, he whispered. I'm uncertain whether it was a misstep or merely a moment of clarity, a revelation about my own essence finally dawning upon me. The gravity of his words enveloped me, coming to a profound understanding of his own identity. What was the significance of that? Could this mark the dawn of something greater? A fresh facet of his being surfacing, one he felt unprepared to comprehend? Or was this merely a fleeting moment destined to vanish as swiftly as it had arrived? I gazed at him, my heart heavy with the realization that countless mysteries still lay ahead, waiting to be revealed. Though my desire to shield him from the missteps of my past was strong, I recognized that such a burden was no longer mine to bear. He had transformed from that little boy who once relied on my guidance for every step. He was transforming into a different person, one with his own aspirations, his own challenges, his own sense of self. A knot tightened in my stomach. What comes next, Jason? What unfolds next? His eyes met mine briefly, and in that instant I caught a glimpse of the boy I once knew, the one who still sought his mother's comfort. Yet the doubt reflected in his gaze was unmistakable. I don't know, he confessed quietly. I find myself at a loss for what comes next, yet the facade of normalcy has become unbearable to maintain. It's impossible for me to simply let it go. I swallowed with difficulty, the knot in my throat rendering my words elusive. Is it possible to let it slip from my mind? The notion seemed alien, teetering on the edge of impossibility. How could I possibly erase from my memory the moment my son ventured beyond a boundary I had never realized was there? How could I possibly feign that everything was as it should be after those words echoed in my mind? Jason, I'm at a loss on how to mend this, I confessed, my voice trembling. I find myself at a loss, unsure of how to bring resolution to this situation. I long to support you, yet I find myself struggling to comprehend the complexities of it all. I'm uncertain if I will ever perceive Emily in quite the same light again. The anguish in his gaze intensified, and I understood the extent to which this was consuming him from within. He felt the pain as well. My anger, my fear, my shock, they were all valid emotions. Yet they could not eclipse the reality that my son was enduring his own pain as well. I never intended to cause her pain, he murmured, his voice heavy with feeling. My intention was never to cause pain, particularly not to you. This was never my intention. The profound weight of his remorse pierced through my soul. He appeared just as adrift as I felt, grappling with the implications of his choices, contending with emotions he was not prepared to confront. As his mother, I found myself seated here, grappling with the complexities of it all. Yet perhaps, just perhaps, That held the answer. There was no need for me to decipher it at this moment. It wasn't necessary for me to possess all the answers. I inhaled deeply, seeking to find my equilibrium. Jason, we shall navigate this together. All the answers elude me. Yet, I stand by your side. We shall unravel this mystery side by side. He gazed at me, his eyes brimming with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. Are you truly saying that? I nodded, my voice gentle, yet resolute. Indeed, we will find a solution to this challenge. However, it will require patience. It will undoubtedly bring pain. Yet we shall embark on this journey side by side. In uttering those words, a realization dawned upon me. The anguish, the doubt, the trepidation, it was all woven into the fabric of maturation for the two of us. We were not required to possess all the answers immediately. For the first time in ages, we found ourselves confronting this uncertainty side by side. The ensuing days unfolded in a serene hush, marked by prolonged, contemplative pauses. Jason and I communicated infrequently, yet in the sparse words we shared, an unvoiced comprehension lingered between us. Uncertainty loomed over the horizon, yet I had learned to embrace the notion that healing was a journey that could not be hurried. It would require time, a span for us to reflect, to find forgiveness, and to reconstruct what had been broken. As the evening unfolded, I observed my son perched on the porch, his gaze fixed on the dwindling rays of sunlight. His expression had shed its earlier bewilderment, yet the ache remained subtly woven into the depths of his gaze. I settled next to him, our shoulders grazing just a whisper apart. Silence enveloped us, yet the tranquility and warmth between us spoke volumes. You're not alone, I whispered after a while, the words escaping softly like a gentle vow. Jason paused before responding, yet his silence spoke volumes. His hand grasped mine, and for a fleeting moment we lingered in a profound silence, allowing the heaviness of the preceding days to rest upon us. It lacked perfection. It proved to be quite a challenge, yet we were afforded an opportunity to mend, and that sufficed for the moment. In that instant, I understood that regardless of the anguish, regardless of the doubt, the connection we shared could never genuinely shatter. It would curve, it would extend, yet it would remain steadfast. For love, in its most delicate essence, possessed an uncanny ability to lead us back to one another.